Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to our next in our series of bringing AI to campus webinar series. Today, we are going to be focusing on AI Gateway. Just a little bit about the agenda. For those of you who might not be familiar with Vocareum, I'm going to provide a quick overview of Vocareum and sort of touch on the topic at hand, which is AI Gateway, and that should last about 15 minutes. Then also with me, I have here Mary Gordonier. She's our solution engineer, and she's going to do a demo, which should last about 25 to 30 minutes, and then we will open it up for Q&A. But there are quite a few of us from Vocarium here right now in the webinar. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask them ideally in the Q&A functionality, and someone should be able to answer it live. If not, then we'll go ahead and take questions to the very end and hopefully open the mic. So as I was saying earlier on, that we'll go through a few slides talking about Vocarium. So for those of you who might not be familiar with Vocarium, we launched our first set of pilots in 2014. And our mission is to be the last mile solution to deliver cloud resources to education. So the thesis is that the cloud computing was becoming a really big deal, but most of the access was sort of either for an enterprise case or maybe sometime consumer, but higher ed has specific needs, and we'll just dive into that a little bit more. So you had the different integration point, different workflows, and we are sort of focused on providing cloud resources for education. And when we say education, it could mean either someone needing to acquire a specific skill or use cloud resources as a part of their learning journey. Could be to learn computing or more recently even subjects like math. We have about 4 million learners on our platform, so we do operate at significant scale. We're deployed in about 7,000 universities worldwide, and we have about 10 major edtech partners. So for example, if you're learning cloud computing and Udacity, Udemy, and Simplilearn, it's very likely that, especially for cloud computing, that you're using our hands-on labs. So here are our product offerings. So the first one is Cloud Sandbox, and this is a secure platform to deliver managed access to cloud resources. And when we say managed access, what we mean that we take care of launching the resource or terminating the resource depending on what the needs are. We put guardrails around the resources. The guardrails could be often in terms of budget, so you want to make sure that your budget doesn't overrun. And then AI Notebook, which is our basically a single interface for delivering compute workloads for research and education. So when we say compute workloads, it could mean things like CPUs or GPUs or even Gen AI API keys. AI Gateway is a product. Vocarium, until this product, AI Gateway, we're really focused on education. But AI Gateway, which we launched a couple of years ago, this is more focused at giving ability for central IT to distribute AI resources throughout the campus, and again provide all the capabilities that we need. And we'll sort of talk about it a little bit more and also show it. And then there's AI Studio, which is our no-code environment to actually deliver AI applications. So once again, there's an environment where you can build AI agents and then share it with your group or a different user or with a classroom. So how do you use Vocarium? Well, some of the ways is online programs. So often if you're running, just about everyone has an online program, you might need labs. And they have online programs have a specific need because often you need to be able to handle scale and spikes. You want also your learner to be able to access it just via browser and not having to download any software, because often these learners are spread globally and they might have all sorts of different access to the devices. Next generation of Jupyter Hub. So a lot of universities run their local on-prem version of Jupyter Hub to deliver Jupyter notebooks, but you can upgrade the learner experience with our Vocareum AI notebook. When we say upgrade, we mean that you can deliver GPUs or Gen AI integration. You can deliver instant feedback. Um, for research now, especially with Gen AI and GPUs, this is becoming more and more of a need that just about in every every department, someone, you might need have a need to access compute resources or Gen AI resources. You might want to deliver, once again, AI assistant, maybe build an AI assistant, often with your own custom data source. And this could be for enhancing productivity in your admission department or for or the tutor. And then Vocarium itself is developing a lot of AI agents which are really focused on learning use case. And we hope to expand it to other use cases, and we'll talk about it in more depth. So first of all, a little bit more about Vocarium Cloud Labs. So Cloud Labs are customized labs for classroom and research usage. And one of the big focus initially was to make sure that there is no cost overrun. Every university I've talked to, they have a cloud nightmare story that someone left machine running and they, ran off $15,000 bill. So we focus a lot, put a lot of energy to make sure that these sandboxes are sandboxed, and by using budgets and session length and policies and what kind of session. We will worry, we have implemented things like automatic suspension, overage, fraud, or expiration. You can control things like grace periods and exactly what you want to do. And there are a lot of learning features. So once again, the cloud environments that we support are AWS, Azure, Databricks, and GCP, and we expect to add more and more SaaS products to this portfolio. Cloud Control Center. This is our hub where where an admin can set up their own cloud account. So you can bring your own pairs. You can set up policies, provisioning rules, concurrency limits. What we mean by concurrency limits are, some things like you want to make sure that even if by policy you can say you can only launch this kind of instance, but you might want to say concurrency limit that you can launch no more than 3 at a given time. And this will provide you a dashboard with high-level statistics and spend profile and what service is being used. This is the example of our largest deployment of Cloud Labs. This is in collaboration with AWS Academy. This is deployed to about 2 million learners worldwide, and the learners, we are very proud of this program because learners are often using this as a part of their curriculum. So they not only get their college credit, but also they are getting ready to take maybe an AWS certifications. What's a Vocarium AI notebook? So this is something which, as I mentioned, this is our single interface which we use to deliver all the compute. It's fully Jupyter compatible. So if you're bringing a Jupyter notebook, you can import and export out of it. But also you can provide other features like you can provide Gen AI API keys. So that was the first deployment where you can deliver, let's say, to a notebook, $5 of Gen AI key, and you can ask the students to potentially go out there and program it. GPUs becoming a bigger and bigger deal. That how do you deliver GPU resources cost effectively for machine learning jobs? So not only we can deliver GPUs through public cloud, but also we demonstrated integration with NRP, which is a national research platform. So we are beginning to look for more integration with on-prem data centers. So you can deliver it more cost effectively. You can integrate things like AI assistants and tutors, and we'll go into a little bit more detail. So once again, this is our AI notebook, and if you will notice here, we are showing it that it's seamless, as a part embedded in a Canvas sort of iframe. So LMS integration has been a big part of our focus because we realize that learning does not happen. Labs do not run in isolation. They need to be an overall learning context. The student can submit it. They can manage their resources. They can, again, these you will used to be for maybe computer science focused, but now, or maybe a data science major, but now it's being used for lots of different departments. For example, business is a big consumer. Very recently, we had a deployment in psychology department. So this is kind of sort of a big driver of growth for us. Vocareum AI Notebook, and I talked about GPU resources. So you can either have an interactive access to GPU, or you can schedule batch jobs, hourly budget. So this is, once again, it's an expensive resource. So you need to make sure you um, manage the budgets. One thing which I realized that we did not talk about in the slide, but we recently announced a partnership with Google Colab. So you can provide access to Google Colab inside your LMS. So you can get access to, say, GPUs and computer resources that Google Colab provide, but also integrated with your LMS so that you can do auto grading and initialize the student notebook. I did mention integration with an RP. Now coming to the product that is the focus of today's demo is AI Gateway. This is our central hub for managing campus AI resources. Basically, you can, let me just go to the next slide. So here is a little bit of the architecture diagram. So the AI Gateway takes in, you can deliver AI resources from services like Amazon Bedrock. So we support I believe Nova and Anthropic and Claude through Bedrock, or Claude directly, or Azure OpenAI, Google's Gemini or OpenAI. Or if you're hosting your own model, let's say some of our university partners are hosting, let's say, Llama 3 in the data center, you can tell the AI gateway that which resources and models you're interested in distributing. So you decide the models, and then you create what we call policy, and which says, okay, deliver these models from these providers using these access keys and with these constraints around it. So the budget is the constraint that we are providing today, but we are implementing more like rate limiting and compliance as you're learning. And then once you configure it, you can deliver this AI resources to either a group or a user or a classroom. And it can be delivered either to a notebook where, as I was saying earlier on, they can be Gen AI API keys used for computing, or it can be delivered to AI Studio, which you can then use it to create these assistants. Hopefully, I realize there's a lot of information here, but we'll go over it a little bit again, and hopefully it'll become a lot easier when we show it. And then, as I was mentioning, we are delivering a lot of AI agents, which are focused on a specific learning tasks. So here's some of the list of AI applications, which you can either develop or configure with our AI Studio. So this is the most generic no-code application with the assistant with custom data source. So you can upload your data sources, and then you can configure our AI to say you want an assistant to go out there, access the resources. But there are other agents like coding test generation agents. This is the part of our notebook setup. We are very proud of we are focusing a lot on our math assessment agents. There's a domain model generation. What we mean by domain model, that you can provide some document, maybe some text content, and we will generate a graph of the concept. That sort of is a foundation for our personalization that we'll mention later on. Copilot agents, you can generate code. We even recently implemented an English assessment agent and the personalized user agent. So here are some of the agents. Hopefully, you'll give you a glimpse of it in the demo. So here are some scenarios in which you can deploy AIs today. So you can provide everyone, so this is one of the things which we see, you can provide everyone in the university access to maybe, as an example, Gemini and OpenAI service, and you can limit the total usage to $10. So the way we'll know that you're a part of the university is if you can connect your SAML authentication system. So when the user logs in, so we know that through the university ID provider, then we can give them access. Or you can provide an access to an agent to a specific group, maybe an admission group, someone has built an enrollment assistant, and you can deliver it to everyone in the admission group. Or you can provide it to a course. So you can say this course in a business intelligence course has access to $100 of Claude, and then the teacher can decide how to distribute it further. We do integrate with all the major ed techs, and as I was mentioning, this is a key part of what we are focusing on. Before we started putting a little bit more energy on other parts of the campus, and that's why we are integrating with your ID providers. We are trusted by 7,000 at the institution. This is a little bit of plug for not plugin, plug for our if for those of you who are going to be at ASE GSV. So I will be there with Sesh Murthy from UCSD, and we'll be talking about our how we are building a platform which is helping close knowledge gap in math. This is again a part of our platform that we are at least applying for math proficiency. So I think that was the last slide. And this point, I would like to just hand it off to Mary for the demo.
Hi, everyone. I'm here to share with you some of that functionality that Sanjay was discussing today. And I want to start by kind of using, because as Sanjay mentioned, there's a lot of different aspects going on in the platform. I want to start by using that diagram that Sanjay shared in order to kind of give you a framework for what we're going to back on this a couple times as we go through the demonstration. So first, you can kind of see here, we've got our third-party options. Sanjay discussed what you're doing is with AI Gateway is bringing in your relationship with other service providers, your agreements with them, taking one of the keys from those accounts and plugging it into Vocareum. And then from there, we're versioning keys for each of your users. And those keys are then used to enable all of these great resources and features within Vocareum. And the keys can also be used outside of Vocareum. So we're going to start by looking at the organization administrator. So there are three roles in Vocareum that are sort of the primary roles that you'll interact with. And those are the organization administrator, the teacher, and the student. And within the group flow that we're going to be discussing, we also have sort of teacher-student equivalents for applications that can stretch beyond the classroom. And in those cases, that's the group administrator and the group member, which sort of act as the teacher and the student roles outside of the classroom. So getting into the demonstration, from here, we're an organization admin. Now, this is the sort of super administrator of the platform. Typically, there's only a couple folks in your organization who would have this role, and they have kind of the keys to the kingdom. So this is the user who would be able to view the all of the sort of budget and financial information that we provide, the analytics from your users using your resources. That's an organization admin feature. You can see here that this organization has a number of courses and groups that have keys associated with them. And then within that, they have individual assignments with keys associated with them. So we'll get a little bit more into how that is all set up, but just wanted to give you a quick glimpse at some of the powerful analytic tools within the dashboard. Within our Gen AI resources, we have the concept of services and policies in addition to keys. So services are those, as I mentioned, kind of third-party options that you're connecting into AI Gateway. And so in this case, they could be OpenAI, Azure, Llama, Claude. We can also support Claude through Bedrock, Nova, Gemini, and custom implementations. It's extremely simple to add a new service. All you have to do is fill out a brief form, and the most important information you're going to provide here is going to be the API key, which again will be from your end service provider. In this case, it would be a key from OpenAI. then an identifier, a name for you to identify that key internally, and then a budget. So this will be the overall sort of master budget for this service that you're connecting. And so that key that you're bringing in from the outside account, spend on it won't ever exceed this top line budget that you provide here. And so, for example, we have our an OpenAI service that we've added here, and we have the service type, which is what you've selected in that dropdown, and then the API endpoint. So for something like OpenAI, we already know the API endpoint for that, and then we generate our own version of the API endpoint. And this is the Vocareum endpoint is what your users' requests are actually going to go to first. And that is where we can do the sort of budget management, tracking of requests and responses, analytics, and then we send that request from your end user on to the actual service provider's API endpoint. And then again, when it comes back, it goes through our endpoint. So your key is that you provide here is only getting used with the service provider's API endpoint, whereas the keys that your users are given are going to be sort of filtered through the Vocareum endpoint. So for example, this one has an overall budget of $100, and so far we've spent $44.93. So you get kind of a top line view here of what's going on, and this little green check marks means that we have validated that this connection was successful. So we've connected with the service provider. Then just to give you a little bit of an insight into some of the other options here, for example, for a custom implementation or an Azure implementation where you might have your own set of unique models available or not available, we ask for a little bit more information. We're going to ask for your key, again, an identifier, a budget, but then we'll also need to know the URL that is going to be this initial API endpoint from the service provider, since that will be unique to your resource for custom and Azure deployments. And then similarly, we need to know what models you have available. So we ask for you to sort of define those and define the cost for tokens within your system, which can be sort of entirely self-defined for custom. Azure is probably going to give you a little bit more information about what they're charging on that. So that is how the services are connected. So that's step one. And then from there, we use policies to add a couple extra layers of control over how those services are used when they're passed on to users. So every time you create a service, you get a default policy automatically created, and that's going to be a policy that just gives, if you apply it to user keys, will give the user access to all the models that are available within that service. And but you can also create your own custom policy. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to enter a policy name. We're going to say ChatGPT 4, and then we'll call it 4.0. And then we're going to have OpenAI be the service. Now here you can see you can actually put multiple services under one policy. So that's another benefit of policies if you wanted to have sort of a multi-service policy available to users. But in this case, what we're doing is using it to limit policies. So we created this ChatGPT 4.0, and instead of giving all the models, we're just going to give ChatGPT 4, and let's say, let's do actually we'll do 4.0, be more accurate, and then we'll do 4.0 mini. Okay, so we're going to save this policy. And then you can see you can also add additional services there. But again, right now with our ChatGPT 4 service, we're just going to have these 2 models available. And from there, we can use this policy to grant access to services to our users. And there are two ways to approach that. So we've just done a little bit of this AI gateway setup. One way to approach that is through our AI notebooks. And so that's sort of more directly through in a classroom application where you want to provide students with access through their learning lab to the AI resources. There's also the option to give user key access and assistant access through what we call our group flow. And that would be a sort of even broader application than the just a classroom model. We're seeing use and interest in use for areas like providing resource access to researchers, to faculty members, to various areas of staff. For example, giving AI access to your finance department. So a little bit more broad range of use outside of the classroom. So what we're going to do is add a group. We're going to give our group the name, we'll call this one faculty. And then, yeah, faculty example. It's got a start date that's by default set to today. And then we've got the end date here, which let's just say that we're doing this for spring semester, and we're going to have the end date set for June 1. Now, you see, I mean, as you can see, you can really go quite far out with this end date, but this is going to be a nice short-lived one. I'm in New York City right now, so I'm going to set this to Eastern time. We're going to pretend our university is New York based, and we'll add this group. And that will just, that time zone will just dictate, what the timestamps look like. All right, so now we have this faculty example group. What we want to do is add some users. Well, first, actually, let's go ahead and add a resource. So we're going to add that policy that we just created, which is our ChatGPT 4.0. This expiration date is optional, so if you leave it unset, it will just be the expiration date of the group. You could set a shorter lived expiration date for a specific resource, though. And we're just going to leave it unset, and so that will be the sort of ends of semester date that we set previously. Now here, this gives you the option. We set a budget on the service as a whole, but that service might be shared among a lot of different users, and maybe we want to limit this group to only using $50 of the overall budget. And then per user, we're going to give each user $10. So you can set budgets at various levels, and whatever the first budget to be hit as users are using your resources, that's the one that's going to be enforced, right? So whether that's the user's individual allocation, the group allocation, or the service allocation. So the end goal is that you never sort of end up above any of those. So we're going to go ahead and enable this resource, and then this should give all of the users in this group, which is currently nobody, but we're going to fix that momentarily, access to $10 of budget for our OpenAI resource and those two models that we just added. So next we're going to go ahead and add a member. This is, as I mentioned, the sort of group member role, which is contextual to the group, right? So someone can be a member of a group as well as a teacher in a course. The only role that's sort of overarching for the entire organization is the org admin. All the other roles are more contextual. So for example, we've had universities say, well, we have teachers who sometimes take courses. So that's completely, something that's easy to accommodate within the system, right? People can have multiple roles in different contexts. So we're going to add a member to this group. I'm going to add this sort of mock teacher and put in their email there. You can see here, you can do a bulk add with a CSV file, comma separated value file. If you want to add a bunch of folks at once, you can add them one by one. But we also have a SAML integration where you can have folks added to groups automatically based on attributes in their single sign-on profile within your organization. So this can be managed manually, the group membership, individually, at scale with a CSV, or automated through SAML. So we're going to go ahead and add this member. And we've enrolled this member now. And we're not going to add an admin at this time, but just so you know, you can assign a group administrator here. So if you recall right now, I'm acting as an organization administrator. Organization administrators can create groups and manage group memberships and resources, but you might want to be able to delegate a single group or a couple groups to a user who's not an overall org administrator, organization administrator. So in that case, you might, for example, make one of your staff or a faculty member a group administrator, and then they will be able to manage members and resources just for the groups that they're assigned to. But for now, we're just going to stick with this teacher member, and we'll pause there on the admin side of things, and we'll jump into the user experience for this Mary teacher role, which I have logged in here. So when I log into Vocareum as a teacher, I land on my courses page, and this will show, you may have noticed there's quite a lot of courses that I can see for this organization. As an organization admin, I can see all of them. But when I'm a teacher, I just see the courses that I'm enrolled as a teacher in. And similarly with students, you would only see courses that you're enrolled as a student in. So again, this like context-specific role, I'm a teacher of these two courses. Then I wanted to give you a peek at where I would find the AI key that was just given to me. So that faculty example key with the ChatGPT 4.0 policy is now available to me here in Gen AI and my keys. And I'm able to actually launch a sandbox to play with that in a lab. And I can also use my keys to converse with existing assistants that are shared with me here. So for example, we'll use this faculty example key. Maybe we'll use 4.0. And this is an OpenAI assistant that doesn't have any customization. So we're really just talking to that GPT 4.0 LLM. So I could ask a question like, what is Vocareum? Because this AI, it has all of the knowledge of GPT, and so it's not limited to anything that I've specifically trained it on. So hopefully it's heard of us. Okay, great. So it's 4.0 is, so it's giving us a nice long robust answer here, and it's telling us about some of Vocareum's features and what we do. So that's where I, as a teacher, the one place where I can use my key is in these assistants that have been shared with me. I can also go ahead and build my own assistants. So, and that's quite simple to do. It's a completely no-code assistant builder. What we're using for these customized assistants is retrieval augmented generation, RAG, which is I'll get into in a second. Let's give our assistant a name. We're going to call it a Python tutor. And we'll confirm that. All right, now we have a Python tutor. And then you can give it whatever description you want that will help you identify it later. And you can give it a prompt, which will be passed to the LLM every time a request is made to give it some direction on how it should formulate its responses. So I'm going to go ahead and paste in a nice prompt that I've had good luck with in the past. This one is kind of giving it some guardrails for sort of being a good tutor or mentor, being positive, saying saying I don't know when things aren't beyond your scope, and breaking down complex problems into, or tasks into smaller manageable steps. You can change this prompt as many times as you want while you're testing out your assistant. So this is one that we refined a little bit over time doing some tests, but you can really put anything that you want there. You could tell it to answer things like it's Yoda, and it will. So it's a very flexible way to give direction to the AI. Here we're selecting the GenAI API key that will be used. And so these are going to be the Vocareum keys that I mentioned. And you can select a specific key that's available to me as a user. There's this temp key that I already had, and then there's this faculty example key we just created, or you can say end users key. For the moment, we're going to actually leave it as end users key, and that means whatever context this assistant is used in and whoever is using it, their keys will be, their AI keys will be the key used, as opposed to one that's available to this particular user. And this is a great way to do it for courses and groups typically that you want to share an assistant with. And then before we get into the advanced settings, let's go ahead and save this. And we're going to upload a file. So this is where the retrieval augmented generation comes in. So we're uploading, in this case, just a PDF with some Python basics. And we're going to, let that upload, and then we're going to build. And when we build, we'll let this publish the assistant after we build it, which will make it available to other people within the organization. So what's happening right now, and the build will take varying amounts of time depending on how much information you're uploading. We're just uploading one file, so hopefully it won't take too long. But what's happening right now is the information that I've uploaded into the knowledge base is being indexed, and then essentially created the indexing is allowing the AI that's going to access it in the future to have a sort of clear sense of what is in that document and be able to retrieve parts of it at need. So that's the retrieval augmented generation. And there's a couple different ways that you can use that feature. So in this case, we'll look at the advanced settings once the build is complete. But in this case, what we're going to use it for is to sort of supplement and direct the information that the LLM already has, because it isn't a very robust knowledge base. And I think one of the options that will have in advanced settings that I'll show you in a moment is the option to restrict sources. So if we had a quite robust knowledge base and we didn't want the LLM to look outside of that knowledge base for answers when it's responding to requests, then we could restrict access to those specific documents that we've uploaded into the knowledge base, and it wouldn't look outside of it. So for example, if we restricted sources in this case, and then we asked it about Vocareum, even though ChatGPT knows about Vocareum, Vocareum is not in the knowledge base. And so it would not be something that this LLM could answer. It would probably say, I don't know. Actually, we could test that out really easily. So first, it looks like our tutor has finished building. So in our advanced settings, we have Publish Assistant, which is something that we enabled through our running of that build in the knowledge base. And by default, we have this Restrict Sources setting turned on that I mentioned, and that is, as I mentioned, the assistant will only consult its knowledge base when generating responses. You can also link sources. So one of the things that LLMs typically are not able to do as a function of how they work, they're not able to cite their sources. when they're trained, they aggregate all of that information, but they're not able to tell us where they got it from when they respond to us. So one of the cool things about retrieval augmented generation is the ability to, for the LLM, when it is responding, to actually tell you, where it got that information from within your knowledge base. There's also chat memory. So that is the assistant is given context on the last 3 user prompts when it's generating responses. So this does mention, that you could disable this to reduce cost and improve response times, because what's happening is it's sending, when we send the user request, we're sending more information with it, right? We're sending the last 3 user prompts, and that means that the LLM will have more information to process, right? It's sending and sending more information, processing more information. That can increase cost and response times a little bit, but you'll also get a sort of more organic, continuous conversation that has less likelihood of potentially being repetitive for the end user, or repeating sort of concepts that they've already discussed in their recent conversation. So there's a lot of ways to sort of tweak what's happening here. We're going to actually leave on restrict sources for a second, just so I can show you what I was mentioning about, that if we limit to this Python basics sample chapter, and we go to my assistant's Python tutor, here we are. We're using the end user's key, so I was able to select which key I wanted to use. And then if we ask it, what is Vocareum? Same model that we were using with OpenAI, but it's saying I don't know the answer to your question because it's outside of its knowledge base. But if we go back to our builder and we go back to this Python tutor and we don't restrict sources or link sources, and then we save, and then we go back to our assistants, we go to our Python tutor, we can clear our history here, and now we can ask, what is Vocareum again? And now it's checking its retrieval augmented generation knowledge base. Probably didn't find anything in there, as we know, about Vocareum, but it's able to go outside of that knowledge base to supplement the information that I've provided. And so it still does know about Vocareum. It also knows, for example, like, how do I write a function? So in this case, if I ask this to a ChatGPT, typically it wouldn't necessarily know what language I was talking about, what programming language I intended to ask it about. So one neat thing about this is I didn't tell it in the prompt that we're working on Python, but it does know, because of that documentation that we uploaded, it knows that, that we're talking about Python. And then if we go back to the builder and we go ahead and link sources, and then we save it, and we go back to our assistant, we've got our Python tutor again, and then I can ask, how do I, let's say, declare a variable? And then we should get some links with our answer. So here it's linking us to some sample chapters that we can view. And it's showing us this create a variable section of the document that we uploaded. So that kind of gives, it gives students a way to sort of validate the information, maybe find the relevant parts of your course materials, in the case of a tutor, and get that sort of connection to the larger ecosystem of your course. Okay, finally, I want to just jump into the student's experience. I want to make sure we leave a little time for questions, so we'll do the student's experience a little quickly. So first, what we're going to do is just go ahead and share, while we're still in the teacher view, we're going to take that assistant we just created, and we're going to share it with a course. And this is the course that we're going to share it with. We'll save. All right, great. Now we're jumping into a student view now. As a student, I can see my courses. I can see my apps and the assistants that have been shared with me. You can see Python Tutor is here because it's shared with a course that I'm in. And then in Gen AI, similarly, just like my teacher, I can see keys that have been shared with me. So this is a key that was shared with this student. They can grab that API key. Now, one thing I didn't mention yet about these API keys, they can be used within Vocareum learning environments. They can also be used in any development environment that has an internet connection. So anywhere that you want to write code that it is making queries to one of these services, you can actually use these API keys with the corresponding Vocareum endpoints in your code, and they'll work wherever you plug them in, and you'll just basically swap in the Vocareum one for where you would usually put the key and OpenAI endpoint in this case. So just jumping quickly into my courses, I'm actually going to show you all. So this is what it looks like in Vocareum when I'm a student who wants to go to my work, but we can also integrate it directly into an LMS, a learning management system. So in this case, the student wouldn't even have to log into Vocareum at all. They just have their LMS account, in this example, Canvas, but any LMS that supports LTI, the Learning Tools Interoperability Standard, which is most of the major ones, will be fine. And then I can actually see, my teacher has shared that assistant with my course, and I can see Python Tutor here now. And I can ask them, how do I write a for loop? And then I will be interacting with the exact same assistant that my instructor was earlier when they were testing it out. And I get a nice sort of run through of writing a for loop. There's also a bunch of other cool features in here. I can access my keys directly in my assignment as a student, or as any user who's enrolled in a course. Sometimes courses are sort of a good way to provide resources and environments to researchers as well. And in here you can see that API base I mentioned and the API key, which again can be used directly in this Jupyter environment that we have here. It can be used in a VS Code environment we could launch here, and also on my local machine.